Hello, this is my basic guide to Lotus. Lotus is a 3 bomb site map, which means that the defensive team cannot do the 2-2-2 they would probably want to do, because that would be 6 players. So therefore, they would do a 1-2-2 or a 1-1-3. 1-1-3 tends to be stronger. The reasons I went over in Haven on my Haven guide. But essentially, it's more defined strong side. The weak side players can usually influence the strong side in some way, either by being very, very strong on their own individual site or by actually directly influencing the strong side. And generally, they can also sack one of their sites to play as a 2 if they want to. And that's kind of the gist of the 1-1-3. And generally, you're going to put the strong side somewhere, like such as my fracture guide where I outlined where you're going to put the strong side into a really strong place. And so we're going to identify where those strong parts of the map are now. The strongest part of the map is probably A main, and C main is also quite strong. B main is also important, but not strong for the strong side. So I'll go over B main later. So the reason why you want to actually identify these as strong sides is actually not anything to do really with the sites as much, but more to do with the fact that they contain the rotations. The rotation points sort of allow this map to function the way it does, because it basically stops the defensive team from flanking and containing in a way that is common in Haven. So in Haven, you would actually see a lot of flanks and containing from the defensive team, such as pushing up a lobby and then containing the enemy into A or something like that, right? It's hard to explain without actually showing. However, that isn't always, that's not even really possible as much on this map. It requires more timing. It requires maybe even like numbers as well. So for instance, if the defensive team pushed A, then they could not contain the enemy team in C because there's still this rotation, which means that the defensive team would need to send one person here and maybe have a person from B to actually fully contain them in C, in which case you only have one player actually defending the site. So it's really, really hard for Lotus defense to contain if they actually find flanks. And these rotations also open up other things as well. It allows the attacking team to do splits into B. It allows also the attacking team to do faster rotations into B and C, as the defenders will have to do these paths, which is a lot weaker, a lot slower than this path from either B to C or C to B. That's the reason why these are strong points in the map. You're going to generally put 3A, and the reason why you're going to put 3A is because it does a couple things. The reason why you put 3A is because it stops the enemy team from getting this rotation for free. It also gives you access to that rotation, which means if they take B, you actually have way more access to B than the enemy team does, and they're going to have a struggle defending B from just main, right, and the site. And you have multiple angles of attack. Another reason as well is actually more to do with the split of the map. So what you can't contain them, you are going to have a better split of the map like this, and therefore you can sort of start to, once you have this area taken, you can start to maybe have a player rotate around that back to C and start to maybe do a 2-1-2 that would actually be really, really strong for the later part of the round when you actually really have control of this with 2 players. Then you can start to move that support player over to C. Another reason why you may also have 3 players on A is because you generally want to play a player with an operator on C in this position, because this is a really strong position for the operator. It's very hard for the attacking team to get around this fight, as opposed to on A, where it's actually quite easy for the enemy team to sort of avoid a fight with an operator on A. And generally you want to be playing the strong side away from the operator, because the operator does not want to be retaking. So therefore, you're going to put the strong side on the opposite side of the operator, so the operator is going to most likely have a stronger impact. On this map, it's very weird because this is a 3-site map, right? Which means that on Haven, for instance, you would actually play quite slow sometimes, just to try and identify where the ones are. But on this map, it's quite obvious where the ones are going to play a lot of the time. So you don't actually need to do that. You can actually just take a main control and then turn it into C pressure eventually. And the reason why this would turn into C pressure is because when you take this position, it actually puts pressure on this person to make decisions. Where do they want to rotate early because they take a lot of A, and that usually means that they might be going B or they might be going A because they can split on both of those sites from that position. or do I want to stay, right? And if I stay, I'm going to be late to the retake, and it's going to be really hard for me to retake because I've already wasted a lot of time rotating late, right? Do I want to go this way? I mean, do I want to go rotate like behind them, right? And it's really hard to do that, right? Because you can't contain them. If they try to contain them into a lobby, then the enemy team is going to rotate to B, to this way, right? Completely ignore the fact that there's someone here. And on top of that as well, you also do make yourself potential to break the chain and die, where if you die, then they can just run C. And they get a free plant, right? So generally this person's in a really bad position when you actually take A main. And I think it's not very known that this person, I think people realize that like the C player is actually in a bad position when this starts to get taken. I think a lot of people can feel it when they're in that position, but they can't really understand why. And the reason why is because their choices suck, right? They don't really have that great of a choice unless there's good enough communication there, right? So in solo queue, this is quite applicable, where this person has to make their own solo decision based on what's on the map, rather than what's being communicated, because more than likely there's not going to be much communicated. So yeah, I'm going to talk about lurking to finish off the video. So on attack is like the easiest part to talk about for lurking. So on attack, the lurk is most likely going to be towards B or towards A. C is also very good. Generally, B is really strong if you're going to go C, because it allows you to have this rotation, and more importantly, your team have the rotation into B if you have more space as a lurk. Also, it's really strong if you're going to go B as a team, that you have a lurk in A. The reason why is because you can catch any rotations that go into B from the door. And the C rotation, the C lurk can be strong if you're going B or if you're going A. The reason why it's strong is because it allows for potential long flanks, and it allows for like these shorter flanks into B on these players, which usually you might see players path this way when taking B, and this player can actually crunch this player. The problem is with this is that this is going to be the sentinel site, so this timing has to be really well done by the attacking lurker on C. And that's the reason why I don't usually lurk C a huge amount. I usually lurk B and I usually lurk A. But when we go like B or A, I tend to do like a lurk B for A, or if we go in B, I tend to do a lurk A for B, and I don't tend to do any lurks that involve C unless I'm really struggling in the game, or the team's really struggling in the game, I mean, and I need to try and find like a really strong timing, or I feel like this person's maybe a bit, they rotate really fast, right? Once we take this space, then maybe I've got an opening for a lurk. That's kind of like how I see it. I don't really tend to go for it a huge amount, but usually it's when I've got a solid enough read. That's when I'll go for this. Alright, so lurking on defense is quite difficult because you can't really contain them unless certain things happen, right? So for instance, if your teammates are going really hard for this site, for this part of the map, right? The enemy team, the attacking team, won't have this rotation. So therefore, they're forced to rotate back through here. So therefore, that's when you can actually contain. If the enemy team have control of this, you can't contain. So that means you have to maybe try and find a fast flank onto B because they are going to rotate into B. That's kind of like how I see lurking on the fence on this map. Fairly self-explanatory, fairly easy to understand, I think. But if you do have any questions overall for the whole guide, then please feel free to drop them in the comments. I probably would have missed things, so it is important that if you don't know something or you want to just ask a question about the guide, then you ask it, because there probably would be other viewers that want to know it as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.